What happens when a public figure opens the door to the private world that few have ever glimpsed? When the walls of celebrity crumble, leaving only the raw, unguarded human beneath the carefully curated image. Last night, Kai, the man whose charm has captivated millions across screens and stages, did exactly that. In an interview that began like any other, he revealed facets of his life that fans had only imagined, stories that were private, intimate, and shockingly relatable. The reaction was immediate, a mixture of awe, admiration, and disbelief. For years, Kai has been a figure of artistry and elegance, a persona that seems effortless, almost untouchable. Yet, behind the dazzling lights and the applause, there has always been a life lived in quiet shadows, in moments unseen by cameras, moments that speak to the core of who he is. Last night, with calm sincerity and a measured gaze, he invited the world into that hidden space, and in doing so, transformed an ordinary interview into a revelation, a masterclass in vulnerability and authenticity. This story isn't over. Subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. We follow the moments and emotions of your favorite K-drama stars. Stay with us. It began subtly. The host asked a routine question about upcoming projects, and Kai answered with professionalism, charm, and a practiced smile. But then, as the conversation deepened, he began to peel back the layers of his public persona. He spoke of the pressures of fame, the relentless schedules, the expectations, the constant scrutiny that can make even the strongest feel fragile. He spoke of quiet nights alone, the moments when applause faded, and he was left with nothing but thoughts of who he really was, of the person behind the carefully constructed image that fans adore. But the revelation that truly stunned the audience came when Kai shared glimpses of his personal life, moments of love, friendship, and solitude that had never been made public. He spoke of laughter shared with loved ones, of small victories that felt monumental in private, of challenges faced away from the cameras, away from the judgment, away from the world that only sees the polished exterior. Every word carried weight, not just because it was unexpected, but because it was authentic. Every pause, every breath, hinted at the courage it took to speak these truths openly. Fans, watching from their homes, were left speechless. The reactions flooded social media instantly. Messages of support, admiration, and renewed affection poured in. Some admitted they had never considered the human behind the celebrity, the man whose life had always seemed so glossy and unattainable. Others expressed gratitude, saying that Kai's honesty made them feel less alone, as if his vulnerability had quietly reminded them that even the brightest stars carry shadows, doubts, and moments of fragility. Yet, it was not just the revelations themselves that captivated audiences.
It was the way Kai shared them.
There was no pretense, no attempt to dramatize or embellish. His words were measured, deliberate, each sentence a bridge between his inner world and the hearts of those listening. He allowed himself to be seen, not as a superstar, not as an icon, but as a human being navigating life with courage, humor, and sincerity. The interview transitioned into stories of hope, of perseverance, and of lessons learned through hardship. Kai spoke of mentors who guided him, of moments when he almost gave up, of times when he discovered strength he never knew he possessed. These stories, intimate and personal, resonated deeply because they revealed a truth often hidden in the glamour of celebrity. Success is not a straight path, and even those who seem untouchable are shaped by struggle, resilience, and the quiet moments of reflection that happen behind closed doors. And then, as if sensing the magnitude of what he had shared, Kai concluded with a reflection that left a profound impression on everyone watching. He spoke not of fame, not of accolades, but of connection, the ways in which understanding, empathy, and honesty can bridge the gap between people. He reminded viewers that the heart behind the celebrity is not separate from the hearts of those who admire him, that vulnerability is not weakness, but a gift, a way to remind the world of our shared humanity. In that moment, the interview was no longer about promotion or image. It was about truth. It was about a man daring to be human in a world that demands perfection. It was about fans seeing Sue Kai not as a distant star, but as someone whose experiences mirror their own joys, fears, and hopes. And as the camera stopped rolling and the studio lights dimmed, one thing became clear. This night, this interview, would be remembered. Not for headlines, not for viral clips, but for the courage it took for Sue Kai to open his heart, to reveal the private life that had remained a secret for so long. It was a night that reminded everyone watching that even in the glare of fame, authenticity shines brightest, that connection is forged not through spectacle, but through honesty, and that the greatest revelations often come not from the extraordinary, but from the deeply human moments we rarely see. For fans, this was not merely an interview. It was a gift, a rare window into the soul of someone they have admired for years. A reminder that behind every public persona lies a private story, and sometimes, those stories are the ones that touch us the most. But the story did not end with the revelations themselves. What followed was perhaps even more remarkable: the human response, the ripple effect of Sue Kai's honesty. Fans around the world, who had admired him from afar for years, suddenly felt closer than ever. They shared their own stories, confessions of struggles, triumphs, and quiet victories that mirrored the very experiences Sue Kai had just laid bare. Social media became a tapestry of voices, woven together by a newfound intimacy, a shared understanding that fame does not make one invincible, it simply makes one human, in the most visible way possible. Sue Kai, for his part, seemed aware of the magnitude of the moment. There was a stillness in his gaze, a weight in the pauses between his words, as if he knew that behind every fan's reaction was a reflection of himself, a recognition of the vulnerability he had just exposed. He spoke of moments of solitude that fans would never see, nights spent in quiet reflection, times of doubt when the applause faded and he was left with only his thoughts, and small, seemingly insignificant actions that shaped him more than any award or accolade ever could. It was in these confessions that the interview transcended the ordinary. Celebrities are often admired, but rarely understood. Sue Kai bridged that divide. He reminded everyone watching that beneath the spotlight, beneath the carefully crafted image, there is a person with fears, hopes, and dreams that are as tangible and fragile as those of anyone else. He spoke of love, relationships he holds dear, moments of intimacy that are private yet profound, bonds that sustain him through the relentless pressures of a public life. In revealing these truths, he transformed admiration into empathy, fandom into connection, and curiosity into respect. The interview also revealed another layer of Sue Kai's humanity, his reflection on responsibility. He acknowledged the weight of influence, the way his words, actions, and even silence could ripple through the lives of millions. He spoke of the care with which he chooses projects, the consideration he gives to fans' emotions, and the quiet, often unseen decisions that define the man behind the star. It was a portrait of a celebrity who understands that fame is not just a privilege, but a duty, a responsibility to live authentically, honestly, and thoughtfully. And yet, amidst the gravity, there were moments of levity. Sue Kai shared anecdotes that drew laughter, stories from set and life that reminded viewers of his warmth, his humor, and his relatability. It was a careful balance of candor and charm, a reminder that even when revealing the deepest truths, one can still celebrate joy, laughter, and the lighter side of existence. It was this balance, this rare combination of vulnerability and charisma, that left fans awestruck. As the interview drew to a close, Sue Kai offered a reflection that felt almost like a quiet manifesto, that being human is inherently complex, that it is both brave and necessary to show one's true self, and that the connections we forge through honesty are the ones that endure. He left viewers not with shock, but with something far more lasting, a sense of closeness, a recognition that admiration is not merely about watching from afar, but about understanding and valuing the human story behind the fame. By the time the lights dimmed and the cameras stopped rolling, the impact was already reverberating. Headlines would capture the moments, clips would circulate endlessly online, but the real legacy of that interview was intangible, profound, and deeply human. Fans were not just witnesses. They were participants in a shared experience of truth, reflection, and emotional resonance. Kai had reminded the world that celebrity is not a shield, but a platform, and that the most powerful moments often emerge not from performance, but from courage, honesty, and the willingness to reveal the heart that beats quietly beneath the public image. And so, long after the cameras were gone, the studio emptied, and the interview faded from the evening news, one thing remained undeniable. Kai had changed the way millions saw him, and perhaps even the way they saw themselves. In opening his private life to the world, he had offered a mirror, a glimpse into what it means to live authentically, to embrace vulnerability, and to remember that behind every public figure lies a private story waiting to be heard, cherished, and understood. Last night was not just an interview. It was a revelation, a confession, a reminder that humanity transcends fame and that courage is measured not by what you achieve, but by what you dare to share.